Whoa. So this folk are actually really serious about making their game in Unreal Engine 5, and work has already started. If you notice, 343 is no longer going to be called that. They're rebranding the studio to be called Halo Studio. They're talking about basically bringing a new Halo experience to Unreal Engine 5. And I strongly believe that this is an area that Microsoft has been needing to work on in regards to what I think is one of its flagship franchises. Now, you're not going to see me be playing a Halo game. However, having known about how Halo is basically an icon in American gaming, I'm quite surprised that it is not, as big as it is as big in name as Call of Duty, but how is Call of Duty always capable of doing the sales that it does every year while Halo is not in that category? There are many things. Perhaps we can talk about maybe, not having a wider audience to catch, like, say, Call of Duty. It imports a PlayStation audience into everything that it's doing. It's able to leverage and capture that market. It has a mobile side, it has Warzone now, and all of the above. I don't know what all Halo has, so perhaps there's parity in terms of things that Halo offers that can actually do that as well. Now there are questions about Unreal Engine 5 and all of the above, and how the developers are going to be able to sustain, developing their game on an engine that some people have mixed feelings about. But to be honest, I think this is something that a lot of teams probably need to do to, in a sense, manage their cost of production and focus more on the game and let Epic Games do the heavy lifting. What I mean by that is a lot of these big names, when they're making their games, they have access to a lot of support from Epic. And so while they're making their game, they can get engine support, they can get, training. Epic can fly what they call their, trainers to their studios to help them kind of work through issues that they may have. Say they're trying to develop something, they're trying to do something, and they're having, some challenges. Epic Games can actually get in there with some of their folk and help them. In the past, a lot of studios would do stuff like this in house. They'll make their own engine in house. They'll support their engine in house, and then they'll build tools for the developers to to make their games. And we've seen some studios excel at doing it. Ubisoft is one of those publishers that has a lot of studios within it that has just so much in terms of in terms of its own game engines and in terms of its engineers and everything to do that for. So I think this studio is probably making that move to be able to push aside one more worry to another developer in order for them to be able to take care of that, of which Epic Games, they excel at taking care of their corporate customers. Now there's some aspects of their engine that's on the free side that there are some frustrations about from them, but that's a whole different video, I guess, and that's a whole different audience. I'm not going to bore you with that stuff. But I think it's very interesting to see that Xbox is actually taking this step and is taking this approach, especially at this time right now. And I strongly believe that if they're able to nail down their next Halo game, they really do have something in the works for their audiences that they can actually vibe with. The challenge here though is I'm kind of surprised though with how many of these landmark IPs Xbox is holding on to right now, especially when it comes to the live service offerings. And I always put this in every video that I talk about in terms of this because there's a competitive side to this conversation. Valve is coming out with Deadlock. Seemingly, they're going to that game seems like it's going to be a monster. Just because there's the Team Fortress people, there's the Dota people probably going to be checking it out. It's a huge, massive audience of people who would actually be at least interested in touching that game. There's no doubt about that. But if you think about where Microsoft stands right now, they have access to this Halo IP. They have access to Call of Duty, which is insane. And then maybe some other smaller titles out there that still carry, the live service elements to it. Other competitors like Epic Games, who, it's interesting because Epic Games makes money on the front end and on the back end. On the front end, with Unreal Engine and all the support that they're giving, and Halo, once it makes $1 million and all of that stuff, they're going to start getting their cut. It's more of an investment for them. Then they have Fortnite, which is also pulling in, tons and tons of cash, even though according to some reports right now, they're not as profitable, but they have a lot of runway that they've basically gathered. All they need to do is pretty much just kind of wait it out. And Fortnite is just going to churn in, I think, enough money to continue to sustain them. And then you have PlayStation, who now has Bungie. But Bungie is not, according to what the reports were when they did the acquisition, Bungie's not interested in making exclusive games that are now going to be on Xbox. So the competition is going to be somewhat fierce. And I think this is the preemptive response to what is coming in the next, few months, few years, because this particular area is going to be about the live service games and the flagship live service games all going head to head. And then that's just in this small circle. I haven't talked about EA's Battlefield. I haven't talked about a possible Titanfall, which are, some remarkable, I wouldn't say old school. Titanfall is, to think of Titanfall as old school is weird, isn't it? But it is at the same time. Oh, man. That's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's not old school Call of Duty old school, but it is still old school in a sense. So to think about these games and to put them all, in a list, it's just wild to see how explosive this is all going to be when it comes down to it. And so, yeah, I don't know how, PlayStation is going to respond to this particular change, because we can already see why they're inspired to move 60% of their revenue into something like this. And then there's also other players who are probably not maybe in a majority side. Like, you talk about, say, even Ubisoft's massive. If Ubisoft can come out of this, thing that they're going through, they're going to be working on the Division 3 game, which is also going to pull a good number of players who play these games, across the board. Believe you me, there's some Call of Duty players, some Destiny players who would want to take a break. The Division is kind of like let's go sit there and let's just kind of enjoy ourselves in a different atmosphere that's not like any other game that we play out there. And so there are just so many players in the industry where I'm just looking and seeing how in the world does PlayStation expect to do this without nailing down, say, even another, like a sports franchise or something that's going to help it, diversify. EA's kind of got a very robust portfolio. They kind of got, a balanced diet in that regard. But it's interesting to see where the market is going. And I think little things like this are, indicators that tell us like, these companies are gearing up for like another big push for live service games, another big push to be able to kind of like appeal to their audiences, because there are not a lot of audiences coming all over the place. Like, it's going to take a while for a youngin to jump into Halo when they're already in Fortnite and Apex. But if there's something that's actually pretty cool about this particular Halo, movement that they're making, then I think they can probably see that influx from players who are probably wanting something a little bit more serious, in regard to the way it is. They've even moved to the third person. I don't know if you guys saw that recently. There was a third person implementation that was also done. People were asking who wanted this, what was this for? But in reality, there have been people who've been craving something like that in a Halo game. In fact, one of the reasons I did not play Destiny was because it did not have a full dedicated third person mode. That's crazy, but for me, FPSs they're hit or miss. And so when Destiny was not, third person, I was like, man, having played the Division for so many years and just enjoyed what the Division had to offer, I just was like, nah, I'm not going to play an FPS, this much and this long, because, again, I'm enjoying a third person game that kind of has everything that I would love to see in what's more of a looter shooter in that regard. Okay. What are your thoughts? Let me hear in the comment section. What do you think PlayStation is going to do? What do you think they have in the pipeline that can come in and even put them in the list? Do you think they have anything, or do you think they're still struggling in some regard? Thanks again for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.